How did we get that accident in the Potomac? A devastating crash, so many lives lost, as a helicopter, a military helicopter and a commercial airliner collide over the Potomac River. And, you know, a lot of questions have come out of that, including, like, first of all, how could something like this happen? And were there any indications in the first place that something like this could happen? And the answer to that, quite unfortunately, is yes. Joining us with more details on this, Reagan Reese, White House correspondent for the Daily Caller, with an important new report that she co-authored with the fabulous Amber Duke. Reagan, good to have you back with us.
Hey, Vince, thanks for having me.
Tell me about your effort to find out what the federal government has known about the interactions between helicopters and commercial airliners near Reagan National.
Yeah, so this all kind of originated actually with a commercial airline pilot reaching out and giving us this tip that there have been near misses going on for years at Washington Reagan, specifically between aircrafts and also just aircrafts and helicopters. And we were able to go through some public records on the FAA website, which this pilot kind of told us are designed so that it's a bit hard for the public to access records like those that we went through. And the records that we went through are self-reported incidents from pilots, air traffic control, et cetera, who are reporting any situations that make them uncomfortable or incidents that happened on the job that include these near misses. And so this pilot was able to walk us through how to click the right buttons and right boxes to pull up these reports, which then led to us finding that from 1988 till 2025, of these public reports, I have a feeling that privately there are many, many more. There have been 220 airborne incidences, including near misses between aircrafts. Of those, there have been 30 that have been near misses between planes and helicopters, specifically at Washington Reagan Airport, which, have all been warning signs for what happened, that crash over the Potomac.
So is that an unusual amount of reports for any individual airport when you talk about these basically aviation issues, near misses? Is this an unusual number of reports for any given major airport?
Yeah, so when we look at, we pulled the data from Dallas Airport because that is just nearby and kind of just gives this comparison. And they had 181 self-reported airborne conflicts and near misses in the same time period, and just 5 of those had been between helicopters and airplanes. What I also learned talking to these commercial pilots and former air traffic controllers was that they said it would be a very smart question to ask the administration if they have looked at comparing near misses and airborne incidences at DCA to other airports, because it is probably the busiest airport in the country. And as one pilot writes in their report of a near miss, that this is the most dangerous airport because of all the traffic and because these air traffic controllers at DCA are pushing, trying to get commercial airlines out, trying to get military helicopters around, trying to get VIP movements, et cetera.
I'm reading in your piece today on the Daily Caller a pilot who posted to this aviation safety reporting system, quote, "This heli conflict," meaning helicopter, "at DCA is an ongoing problem. Here is an accident waiting to happen." This is a pilot posting this in January of 2016 after a near miss between what appears to be it sounds like a commercial airliner and one of the various government helicopters that fly past Reagan National. There are other posts here. Helicopter traffic was heading up the Potomac while we were on the river. Visual approach did not alert us to the oncoming traffic. After there was action taken to make a correction from a close call, we were then informed by the DCA tower of close traffic, although at that point it would have been too late, this pilot says, in July of 2015. And there are a lot of these. Here's one that really stood out to me. A pilot angrily writing in 2013 after his aircraft came within 200 feet of a helicopter, quote, "I cannot imagine what business is so pressing that these helicopters are allowed to cross the path of airliners carrying hundreds of people. I do not understand why they are not crossed in between arrivals," the pilot asked. It sounds to be like a very common sense question. Why wouldn't why wouldn't all of that air traffic be scheduled to be more spaced out? So what has the government done? You know, you've got all these pilots and air traffic controllers who have been issuing warnings since the 1980s about these near misses. What do we know, Reagan, about what the government has done in reaction to that?
That's a great question, and that's a question that I had to the FAA as well, and they kind of just spit back at me, some PR type statement, and they answered me rather quickly as well, and I had sent a very long email with a bunch of questions asking, how did you respond to all of these reports? Was there action taken? And when I followed up again to that TMZ PR statement, I received no response about, can you tell me what specific action you've taken? But since that crash, now they've taken drastic action, and they are only allowing certain helicopters to go by the Potomac, including medical helicopters, military helicopters, VIP movement. But when they are moving across the Potomac, all other aircraft must hold and aren't supposed to be in the area. And, that is action that seems like these pilots have been asking for decades, that we found through this report. And now it is only being taken after lives have been lost. And you have to wonder, and I'm sure these pilots in these reports know that the action taken now could have helped prevent something like this.
I'm disappointed, as I'm certain you are too, that you got such a lackluster response from the FAA, just a kind of a terse one-liner to react to all of the reporting that you've done here. I think this is a call to action for the Trump administration to try and get control of the FAA here, because first of all, it's not like the Trump people own this. This is something that's been going on for many decades under a lot of different administrations. Clarity on exactly how this happened and how we can prevent it, I think is something that the public desperately wants to know in light of the chaos we've just recently experienced.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's so much going on in this White House, and I started to think to myself as I was writing this story, like the plane crash feels like it was forever ago, and as more has continued to happen in the news cycle is so vicious right now, and it's turning so quickly that keeping something like this in the news and at the top of the minds of the Trump White House, I think is very important. And I'm sure that they're trying to think about it as well. But just looking at the news cycle, it is almost like this massive tragedy happened and we kind of moved on pretty quickly. And so I hope that's what our reporting served to do, is kind of re-up this for people and say, hold on, there's a problem, that a very serious one, that this administration needs to add to the top of their to-do list. Yeah, no,
it's important that the public gets some answers on this. And to your point, this collision took place on January 29th, not even 2 weeks ago. And you're right, everything has moved at such breakneck speed that it does feel like it was a long time ago. It wasn't. It was very close.
Yeah, I honestly felt like it was longer than that. I didn't even realize it was 2 weeks ago, but I guess I'm thinking about writing this piece. It's just, I don't know. I'm curious to see, and this is these pilots that I spoke to and the former air traffic controllers that I spoke to gave me some really good questions that I think are going to be useful for the briefing and useful for the administration, for President Trump. And what's really great about what we're doing right now at the caller is that we're able to ask those questions. If this was the Biden administration or, the Harris administration, I'm not sure if we'd ever be in a position to ask these questions and help expose this problem to the administration.
No, that's exactly right. Yeah, the transparency is great. Actually, moving to that, Reagan, being the White House correspondent for the Daily Caller, what has that experience been like inside of this White House? It seems like, maybe I'm wrong, but it does feel like the president takes questions in some form every single day. Are reporters that are at the White House having trouble keeping up with the pace?
I tell people that it really feels like I'm in a whole new job and like a whole new position, and that I've almost had like first day jitters over the past couple of weeks trying to relearn the White House beat. And because under President Biden, it was never this quick. We were never this much news. And I think part of that, of course, has to do with the fact that it's a new administration and there's so much to undo and take action on. But even in my conversations talking to White House correspondents before the Trump administration, who had also covered the 2016 administration, they told me that it was completely night and day between the two presidents and the transparency and the amount of questions they take. The nice thing about, or the interesting thing I think about all these questions that President Trump is taking is that not all of them are open to every single member of the press. And so they are sometimes restricted to just the press pool. And so I think that has allowed kind of a rotation of journalists to get in there and ask questions. And with President Biden, you know, there weren't as many options, as many opportunities to ask questions. And a lot of those events were pre-credentialed media, which then gave the White House the opportunity to decide who got to go in and out of those events. And so this rotation, this press pool system, I think works because I think you're seeing a variety of questions.
Well, you know, one of the things that was really annoying and corrupt about the Biden era was that there were so many pre-scripted questions. I mean, how many times did we have photographs of the verbatim question printed out on a note card for Joe Biden as he called on some reporter in a staged event? That's not the world that we're watching Trump in. And you can tell because he would, like this week, there was a Huffington Post reporter who asked him a question. And he goes, "Where are you from?" He had no idea. And the guy goes, "I'm from HuffPost." And he goes, "I thought they were dead. I didn't even know that still existed." So there's nothing scripted about these exchanges. President Trump is calling on the reporters in the room. And I think you're right to an extent. You know, what's interesting about these more limited access events occasionally is the conversations can be a little bit more productive and less chaotic. But boy, it is cool to see him answering so many questions so frequently. Reagan, what does that mean for the White House press conferences, though? I know that Caroline Leavitt had kind of addressed this early on about her pacing and how frequently she would do these press briefings. Are they basically not having press briefings on days where President Trump answers a lot of questions? Is that how it works?
So I'm still trying to figure out what the rhythm is with that. And I think they are too. Under the Biden administration, we always got weekly guidance, and that typically came on Sunday evenings. And they would tell us, you know, here's what the week is going to look like. You can expect briefings on Tuesdays and Thursdays. You can expect the president to give remarks on Wednesday. Right now, we're just getting a daily guidance, and sometimes we're not even getting it the night before. Sometimes we are getting it, the morning of 8 a.m. telling us, okay, there's going to be a press briefing today, or the president's going to take questions today.
Right.
Even now, today there was an Oval Office event. He was signing executive orders. It was supposed to be closed press. Last minute, they opened it up to the press. And so it seems to me that the White House is just flying on this day-to-day basis on whatever the president wants to do.
Yep.
And so I think that when he wants one and when they think there's one that's necessary, they're going to be having one. But as far as an absolute rule that we're going to see Caroline Leavitt on the days that Trump doesn't take questions, I'm yet to see that or figure out what that looks like.
It's cool to watch. It must be very cool to be there. Reagan Reese, White House correspondent for the Daily Caller. Thank you, as always. Good to talk to you today.